Welcome to the 22nd Annual CSVA version 2016. Thank you all for being here. Glad everyone's gotten here safely. Hopefully it was a little uneventful on your trip in. We went through a hailstorm, so we literally drove through hell to get here. I was just getting to the airport. So.
God's on your side.
Yeah. Hey man, our box man. No one has a better view of our game but Jesus. Joseph Smith, of course. So anyway, but we want to say welcome. We're going to get started here and dealing with students and your staff. I'm Errol Seaver. I'm the video coordinator at BYU. For those of you that don't know me and I don't know you, I hope I get to while you're here. If you have any questions, everyone in here will say, seriously, just raise your hand, ask a question. If you have a question of anyone else that you're going to play, anyone else that you know you want to meet, just meet them. Like, seriously, we're all really, really laid back people. We're all trying to accomplish the same goal. We're really all on the same team, even despite our logos of different schools. We're going to get things started here. We've got John Riley from Western Kentucky. We've got Sam Ogden from SMU. And then I'll talk a little bit, but really just want to hear from other people. I just wanted to say welcome, and we're going to get this party started with John's very.
Thank you, Errol. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to CSVA, like Errol said. In this session, we're going to talk about working with students and some of the challenges that come along with that and what Sam and I do in our departments. I believe Errol's going to share a little bit as well. The first thing we're going to talk about is how we recruit our students. Now, me, myself, I love the good old boy system. You use your students and their friends to go and find other people who are interested in sports, particularly football in my case, if you want them to come work football. On top of that, excuse me, you can definitely go use the professors on your campus, because you have to have students who are at the university to come work for you, to go through the scholarship system or any of that. It also gives them a lot of pride to work with their university. So if you can go and work with your professors and they can tell the students, hey, here's an opportunity somewhere you can go get some experience, maybe turn it into a job, a career if you want to, then we show them the things that we know, what we've learned over the years, and we can teach them. And I'll let Sam share a little bit.
We have, at SMU, we have teacher orientation type deal with our students, and during those times we go and we actually talk to all our professors about all our SMU students. So a lot of people are, hey, with the good old boy deal, I mean, it's hard sometimes for schools like SMU, example, where people actually want to come and help and work. So we have to go out with social media. I mean, this stuff has been redundant through the years of people talking about getting students, so we're trying to give a little bit of a different perspective. So mainly going out and really going out to the campus is the main thing that I really would recommend, because when I got to SMU, we didn't have any students. We had there was 2 total people, and now we have 17 people. So, and we were able to really grow our department, and by that we did a lot of just going out and getting involved with professors, with other coaches from other sports, just really selling the program, because a lot of people don't know about Coach's Video. I mean, people don't know that, high school kids don't know that, hey, you can come in and actually work for a football team and get to enjoy it, do something that maybe you can't go play, but you can actually go in and help the program. So, like we send out graphics. We send out a lot of graphics, obviously, for recruiting. Well, our video department also we made graphics for other high school, like to send out to high schools throughout Texas. So we've done that. Just, hey, there's ways to get involved, and we'll actually have high school coaches come in and say, hey, we have a student that films for us, and we'd actually like to, maybe he may actually come to SMU, and can we talk to you, about that? And I think that's a great way to start off, and just really get involved with high school coaches, get involved with, when they come in for practices throughout spring practice, we talk to all the high school coaches about film, because they'll ask us about drones, I mean, all the time. So that's something that we really pride ourselves in. So we're going to talk about hourly pay versus scholarships. At SMU, we have hourly pay, and I honestly believe that hourly pay is not as good as scholarships, because the scholarship, you can kind of hold them to that. So if you ever have an option, I really honestly believe that scholarships is better than hourly pay, because you can have students that'll come in and leave or dip out or whatever throughout the season, and that's not a good thing. So I had scholarships at Jacksonville State and at South Alabama where I was at before. So I don't know if John has anything to that, add to that.
Yeah, Sam said he does hourly at SMU. We have scholarships at Western Kentucky. We had scholarships when I was at Mississippi State, scholarships when I was at Arkansas State, so I've had a history of dealing with that. But you just, in all honesty, you have to help the students understand that when they initially look at the amount of scholarship they might get starting out, it might not look like a lot of money. But once you tell them, okay, that is going towards your education, that is going towards you investing in the future, and you stay here for a year, stay here for 2 years, stay here for 3 years, that scholarship is going to grow and grow and grow and grow, and you're going to work your way to where you could possibly be paying for the vast majority of your tuition at the end of your college career if you'll come in the door and work hard and pay attention. So that's what we do on our scholarships.
Yeah, so we're a little mixed. Actually, volunteers, which was new for us at BYU in the football department. We've got a few volunteers. All of our coaches film kids, which is 5, are on scholarship, and that's full tuition. They get full tuition waiver. Outside of that, obviously the swag and travel and food and stuff like that. But then we have 3 volunteers on the coach's side. My production assistant is a student as well, but he is paid hourly. He's my only hourly student. But in the summer, we can work him 40 hours a week. I'm not sure if it's like that at other places, but he just can't average over 28 hours a year. That's kind of how we're structured at BYU. But it works really well for us because he kind of becomes my assistant throughout the entire year, especially over the summer when none of my scholarship coaches' kids are there. I rely on Sam quite a bit. But kind of going back on the recruiting thing, we really rely on word of mouth from our other kids. I had a scholarship kid this year come in and say, hey, I work with a couple other students over in IT. They're really interested in what I do here with football. Brought them in. We bring in volunteers in the spring, kind of as tryouts. We hold our 15 spring practices. They're shooting on backup cameras, they're shooting on older cameras, they're shooting on dummy cameras, their stuff's not going live. We use that time to kind of train them through those 15 and use our other more senior students to train those students. If it works out, and we also have volunteer spots open in the fall, great. We'll bring those guys in as volunteers. You're going to pay your dues. You're not necessarily guaranteed a scholarship, the next year or anything because you volunteer, but when a spot comes open, the best volunteer is going to move into that scholarship spot. That's really how we've structured it. We've used our volunteers kind of as a farm system, if you will. So that's kind of how we're structured.
All right, the next topic that we're going to talk about is keeping a positive work environment. As everybody in this room can attest to, coaches are not always positive. Right, Will? So as much screaming and yelling and occasional foul-mouthing the coaches may do, our job as a video director is to be responsible for our department. We are responsible for not only ourselves, but also if you have GAs, if you have assistants, if you have interns, all of your students, if you have volunteers like Errol does, everybody that works in your department, you have to answer for to all of those coaches and to the head coach, everybody else. And you have to make sure that the job gets done that the coaches want. That being the case, as much negativity as may be flying around, you have to be positive when you're dealing with your students and your assistants and whoever works in your department. So the more that you influence them in a positive way and actually teach them and show them the right way to do things and the way that the coaches want things done, the better work environment that's going to be, the more they're actually going to want to be around. It may be a small scholarship like I alluded to earlier, but that's going to grow and the financial side is going to be there. But the more positive the work environment, the more they will want to be there, and it will turn into a friendship. And like we were saying earlier, everybody in here is doing the same job. If there's anybody you need to know, you're going to be playing, any information you want to get about another conference or whatever, go up, introduce yourself, make as many friends in this room as you can and at this conference as you can. Trust me, I can attest since Jacksonville 2009, that works very well.
I'm going to add on the positive work environment. I've mainly, whenever we have students come in, I really try and, for example, for a practice, I really try and rotate them. A lot of people don't, they may not rotate guys because they get stuck on, hey, that's my main sideline guy. That's my main end zone guy. So you really want to try and, guys, they want to get the chance. A lot of people want to get the chance the opportunity to be able to, hey, become that main sideline guy or be someone that can travel. So I've really tried this year to be able to rotate people, and I mean, you may know that they're not as good as the next guy or whatever, but in reality, it's not that big of a deal if they're maybe a little bit late on a play. I mean, your coaches may get upset or whatever, which they will. But you're able to go back in and you just let the coaches know that you're going to be switching guys around. These aren't going to be necessarily going to be your guys that you use on game day, but I think it really helps me, especially with like filming ground or switching around. Let them take pictures during practice, or if they want to be in post-production, if they want to help with shooting highlights on game day or something like that. Just give them the opportunity, and be able to teach. Don't go in and start getting upset and yelling at people. I mean, I've done that, but it doesn't work, So you have people that quit, or there's people that may be a little bit more sensitive than you. So I mean, people yell at me all the time, and I'm fine. But if they're yelling at the students, it's a different story. So and especially if your coaches yell at students or anything, they may get upset at students. Try and back them up. I mean, always back up your students. I feel like that's been something for me that, like, they find a lot of respect in that. If you're able to help them, like if they're late on a play or something like that, they messed up, but if you're able to back them up, they really appreciate it. I have a practice schedule that I was wanting to show and kind of like talk about. I have every day. I know a lot of people may have. They may use the coach's practice schedule or their offense, defense, special team schedule. This is my layout that I've made. I just have it for every single practice. This is my face of my practice schedule for the students. So I go through, and every single period I make it as simple as it possibly can be. I color coordinate it. I just tell them this is where it's going to be on the field. If it's field 2A, 2B, whatever, 1A, 1B, and I have it all on one front, and then all the white is where all the drops are. So, and I have on these other tabs, I just have just the back. That's what they see. So that's all our sideline guy goes off of, is right there. So it's just short practice, but that's what he'll go off of. And I mean, it's just make it as simple as it possibly can be. So, and then I'll rotate guys, and like we'll have different people get different spots. But I feel like this is something that is pretty cool, and it's really helped me, because I used to go off of the coach's schedules. It's just something I kind of wanted to show. So, yeah, he played O-line, and he was a medical guy. And that's also something that maybe you guys have medical students. If you got guys that have to be there, talk to your coaching staff and try and get them to be utilized somehow, some way. And they, they may hate being there. When I first got there, we had to get a lot of students. We had 5 medical guys. They despised being in the video office. They thought that it was the worst thing in the world. Well, they actually started enjoying it because, hey, they're actually helping the team. They're able to be a part of the team still. A lot of those guys will be able to travel. But just trying to get those guys involved and really be on the daily. Those guys, you may want to treat them a little bit different than some of your regular students, just because they obviously they want to play. So be a little more sensitive to that. So that's all I have with it.
Yeah, so one thing that I've done, I mean, kind of going back to the whole positive thing, being positive with students. One thing for me is like about once a week, and I don't know, different people's situations are different. Thanks, man. So I try to either like bring in donuts, or we have a collage place down the street. Like we try to bring in collages, just something like that, like once a week, if not like once every other week. One thing I do definitely always do is every student, every time on my staff, when you have a birthday, you're going to get a gift card. It's either going to be like Chick-fil-A. It's going to be just something, just so that way it's just kind of a little incentive, and just more than anything, a thank you, because I know nobody in this room can do their job without student help. Absolutely nobody in here can. I mean, if it weren't for my 9 students, nothing would get done. I mean, there's just no way. So that's one really, really small thing that I do. You know, obviously the values can be different. You can get, you know, a $5 gift card to, you know, McDonald's, whatever. You know, whatever you can do. Like, that's something that I do, and to me that's important. I had a coach do that when I was at a Division II school, and it just struck me really well. So it's something that I implemented myself, and, you know, every time they have a birthday, if they're gone for summer, I give it to them before they leave after spring ball. If for some reason we don't catch up, I just mail it to their house or mail it wherever they're doing their internship for the summer. Make sure they have it. That's the biggest thing, is your students want to know that you're thinking about them when you're not at the office. And you know, when my kids are having birthdays, or in my situation, we have students get married. I had 2 students on my staff actually get married last week. And they're both on my staff, and now they will be married. So I don't know if anyone's ever dealt with 2 married people. You might have a married individual, but if both sides of the party are on your staff, that's a little unique. So, you know, we all protect her over him, so he's always wrong. We just want him to make sure he knows that at home and in the office. But anyway, so really the gift card, that's my kind of thing. I always just want to say thank you to my kids. You know, their birthdays are important, things like that are important. We deal with students that go on missions. I just have a student that just left for a mission. He's been with us for a year. He's about to be gone for 2 years. And when they're going on missions, they can email. They get to call their mom on Mother's Day, and they get to call home on Christmas, and like that's their only phone interaction over 2 years, is 4 phone calls. But they can email every week. So for this student, we're on his email list. So I can email him. He can email me. So I can keep up with him while he's gone for 2 years, kind of keep him motivated, let him know what's going on with us. Because the biggest thing is, and I had a student point this out to me a couple years ago, to me, the word "we" is the most important thing you will ever say in your video department. It's not I, it's not you, it's we. And to me, that's very, very important. It's always stuck with me. And I've always appreciated that, because those kids will do anything for our program, anything. And to me, getting them a $20 gift card for their birthday, or you know, taking them out to dinner at the end of the season, when we're at the bowl game, take them out to dinner. You know, right at the end of the season, we always do a dinner as well. So 3 times a year, we always try to do a dinner for our kids. And then if we have a chance at the house, with my wife's schedule in mind, we'll have them over to the house and have a cookout. So those are just little things that we do to try to kind of keep them happy, keep them coming back, let them know, hey, we appreciate you. And more on a personal level, I appreciate what you do for our department, because none of it would be possible without you all. They're the backbone. I don't film practice. I can't run 7 cameras. It's impossible. So to me, saying thank you, that's how I say thank you to my students. So for me, just little things like that. Think about something that, you know, within your budget that you can do with your students. It would be very helpful, and I know it will go a long way with them. And the more you do to reach out to them, the more they're going to do for you.
I don't know, we kind of touched on it, each of us a little bit, but showing your students the benefits of working in video. Like I said earlier, if you can get students who really care about sports, care about football, want to be around the sports, think that they want to do something long-term with it, then when you show them there is a path to come and work with people like us, to come and be in this room, be at this conference, do the video thing, there's actually some hope for them to look forward to the future. And they can look at whatever, they might get a t-shirt, they might get a ticket, you know, a couple tickets to a home game in one season, and that's all they get for the first semester. If that's all that they get, then they're going to look at it and go, I could go chop lettuce at McDonald's and make more money than what I'm getting for doing this. But if they have something to build on and something to look forward to, then there's a good possibility that they're going to stay around and see that as a strong benefit. Another benefit that I try to use is pride in your university. Because the smaller the school that you have, you're going to fight the battle of being around the big boys. Us being in Western Kentucky, sometimes we deal with Vanderbilt, sometimes we deal with UK, sometimes we deal with Louisville, sometimes we deal with Memphis and Tennessee. They're just bigger schools. It's kind of the way that it is. If they try to commit their fanhood to those schools, you might not get as good of a work ethic out of them, because they're paying attention more to that other school. If you can get them to have some pride in the success of your school, and have some pride in where you're going and where your program is headed, and that them doing their job well helps the players, helps the coaches, helps the team, helps the program, helps the university. If they can see that their little thing they're doing helps all of those things build, then that's going to give them that much more pride to try and help the university move forward.
One thing I kind of want to add to that is one thing that I've talked to is our coaches. I always ask our coaches, I'm like, hey, can you please talk to our students? The students really love interaction with the coaches. So if you can ever get your head coach to come upstairs and spend 5 minutes out of his day to come up there and speak to your students and just tell them how much he appreciates them. If he can go outside and see him up in the lift, or he's like, hey, good to see you, man, or like whatever. I mean, if he's able to get to know them on any kind of level, doesn't have to know their name. I mean, it may be hard for him to get to know who they are. I mean, just maybe he gets to see their face and just say, hey, coach, can you please just do this? And it's very helpful, just so the students know that, hey, he at least knows that I'm there. So that's something that has been good for us as well. So I mean, it just depends on your head coach as well. I know that. So I don't know if we have much else. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Is there anything that anyone would like to ask?
Students dating.
Well, one thing that we've had we have a sheet that we get signed in the beginning of each fall, that especially if they're a player. I don't know. I mean, like if you have girls on staff, I mean, they may want to talk to a player. We have them sign a sheet that says they cannot talk to players, and if they do, because that can be a problem, that can be an issue. So you have you have a written consent saying that they can't do that. So that's something that we've done, and I haven't really ever had that issue. So but I have backed myself on that.
Everybody sign it?
We have everyone sign. I mean, there's a big sheet of information. That's part of it. We have everyone sign it.
I have a question for John. With the scholarship breakdown, I know you said each year kind of builds up. Like how does that breakdown go as far as the dollar amounts and books? Like what type of scholarship?
Right. Well, at Arkansas State, and then it's similar now at Western Kentucky, the way that those two schools do it is basically under my discretion. If I want to have someone come in and do a volunteer semester, or if I don't have any scholarship spots, I need someone to do a volunteer spot, then they can do that for one semester. Once they get onto the scholarship list, if you want to call it that, the way ours is set up right now is it's $500 for the fall, $500 for the spring, and then once you get around to the second year, depending on how the finances are going, that kind of stuff, it's either $750 for those 2 semesters or $1,000 for those semesters. And then each year as you go, it might, in the third year, you might only get $1,000 per semester, or you might get $1,250. It's just, but all of that goes to their student account. You don't write the kids a check, you don't hand it to them. That all goes through the university. There's a lot of red tape and paperwork that has to go through. So that not only protects us, but also protects the university from any questions of what's going on. There is a set system that has to be followed. When I was at Mississippi State, similar to what Errol said, as soon as our kids signed on and they were official, we didn't have any volunteer spots, but as soon as they were signed on, they had full in-state tuition, books. I believe for part of the year they got a housing check. I'm not sure if that was 2 days or kind of how it was set up, but that was how it has been at those schools where I've been so far.
Now, I'm sorry, part 2 of that.
Okay.
Is that like a football scholarship, or is that coming out of athletic scholarship?
To my knowledge, that's under football, because I'm only in charge of football there at Western Kentucky. And I think they have a GA that does both the basketballs, men's and women's, and then they have students that do baseball. It kind of depends on the university and how they want to set it up. But when I was at Mississippi State, between Brock, myself, and Jesse was our GA, and then we had several students, we worked football, baseball, both basketballs, home games, women's soccer home games, and women's volleyball home games. So we had to have students filming all of those. And for football, it was every practice, every home and away game, and for baseball, it was every home game. So it just, like I say, it kind of depends on the university and what the coach wants. Some coaches have been coaching for 30 years and could care less about technology. And they say, I can teach, they can listen, go play ball. Other coaches who are a little bit younger see the benefit of technology and they want to use it on a daily basis, if not an hourly basis. I mean, I've seen baseball coaches stop practice to go over and grab a computer to show a kid something that they did and then teach them in that moment, okay, let's keep practice going.
You guys have any experience using interns from broadcasting schools?
I do not. The closest thing to that is one of my undergrad students right now did a broadcasting type high school program at her high school, and then now she works with us, and she's actually taught me a couple things so far as camera computer operation, that kind of stuff, just things that she had seen that I had never had to deal with. And then a coach comes in and asks a question, and in the research of trying to find out what that was, she had the answer. So it worked out really well. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
How would you handle if you had any students that were thinking about joining a fraternity, sorority? How do you handle that?
I did not go through fraternity rush or any of that kind of stuff. That was just my personal choice. I didn't want to. I believe we get this question just about every year, but it's honestly up to your discretion, and you have to, as well as you can, be involved with the university to where you know how involved how involved is it, how many hours does it require, and if you can, or at least for me, my personal opinion would be try and push that to the spring semester, when for our purposes they may do some off-season workout filming, they may do spring practices, that kind of stuff, but it's not as crazy as the fall is. That would be my personal opinion on that.
I've had a lot of students ask to join fraternities. Me personally, I try and avoid that at all costs. Like I would not want them to be in a fraternity if we can. I mean, some of the students I've had in the past, it goes down a wrong path. In my case. So anyone that is trying to join a fraternity, it's never been a good thing. So.
On the other side of that, several of our students at Washington State, at least 4 of them have come through the exact same fraternity, and it has been used kind of like a farm system for us. Mm-hmm. And so we guys come through, we have not had any issues. Now I know different fraternities, different schools, that kind of thing, but just from where we've been sitting, we've never had any issues.
I think it's totally different with each school.
Yeah.
I mean, at SMU, I know that's a terrible thing. So.
You say you have 17 kids?
Yes.
So you guys that rotate kids every semester with hourly and all that, how do you build that trust with them? Because I got the old school mentality with the coaches. How do you build that trust that they're not talking about what's going on within those walls?
Well,
the coaches and tweeting and social media things. Because what we do is very private, but then you get some kid that you just met to film practice. How do you know they're trustworthy enough down the road?
Well, we're kind of out of the way from the coaches' offices, so they really don't see a lot of the inside aspects.
What about just practice?
Well, practice, we like that waiver up said, like anything that they tweet out, anything that
is that something
we talk about that.
Wrote? Is that something you just wrote?
I wrote it. So because I talk about specifically, anything that involves a football program that may be in a negative light, cannot. That's a complete violation of what we want or what we need. So that's an excuse to get rid of them. We haven't had that issue, but I can definitely see that. So.
Hey, Jevin, to your point, I wrote. We have a 10 or 12-page policy manual, and it says that in this that if something in this is violated, it could be grounds for termination. So it is outright, for me, it's outright that if something in here is violated, you could be gone. So understand that outright when you're getting hired.
Then I look at the point of you don't have much room for error that if kid do something, you lost a spot. That might be your sideline practice guy. Mm-hmm. So then what do?
I'll take my chances.
Right, yeah. So
that's why we rotate. That's why I love to rotate.
Because that's why I get nervous with just hiring random people that just come in for a semester. Mm-hmm. Because if they do something week 2, what am I supposed to do for the next 10 weeks?
Well, what we've done is we've really tried to get younger students. So just because I want to build a department to where they can go from as a freshman all the way through a senior. They understand that. They're going to be able to be there for a while. They understand, hey, I can't do this. I can't do that. So, I definitely understand what you're saying. I agree with Matt. Like I would have to fire that person if they're our main sideline guy.
And then my second part is you say you rotate your guys. How do you guys dictate this? Me personally, my game day shooters, they're held on the highest pedestal. How do you decide who your game day shooters are?
I go through every single practice. I watch every single day. I mean, I go through and scrutinize every single guy. I mean, I watch the entire practice with each individual person, and I go through, hey, try and show them exactly how it needs to be shot. Every single end zone, like we'll have guys for all our scrimmages during the spring. We had new people all through spring, and I had 3 people shoot our spring game on end zone. I had 4 people shoot sideline on our spring game. And I went through every single one of those guys' shots, every single play, and explained to them what they did or did not do right.
Do they shoot all 12 games?
Well, for home games, I have 2 people shoot sideline, and I have 2 people shoot end zone in each end zone. I double check every single thing that everyone does, and throughout the game, it gives me a backup. So I have, I choose whichever angles I want.
I was just going to comment on that. One thing we do at Utah State is we'll shoot a wide shot of whether it's practice or games, right? We'll have a mix of that. And then we'll put it up on the projector and have them shoot it live. What's planned, just a plain practice, and walk them through what they're shooting, everything. Just like we would training-wise, sideline, end zone, and then that gives them, number one, just because it's on the projector, it's not quite as clear, so it's actually harder for them to do it, and you'll get the experience, and that way you can know, working with them, that they're starting to get it, even on a basic level. And then by the time you put them out there, you start them off on end zone, let them do that, and then you can still work with them in the office without that imperativeness of them potentially missing a play or a drill, and then you can work them into the rotation.
What I do during training camp, make it just like the players. Who's getting the starting position? You're my sideline, you're my end zone. The rest of you guys, because that's your advantage to traveling too. Because I can't travel that many guys. So during training camp, whoever my best sideline guy and whoever my best end zone guy, you're my guys. The rest of y'all, sorry. Just like the players. The starting running back, you're trying to get that starting role. You're trying to get that starting role as a sideline guy. So that's just how I look at it.
Yeah, so one thing I do, and I'm very upfront with my kids. Volunteers don't travel. You're your first year, you're not traveling. Sorry, get over it. You're more than likely not going to bowl game. I apologize. It just is what it is. One thing I do at the beginning of fall camp is, well, not beginning of fall camp, right at the end of fall camp, before we're kind of getting started for the season, is I make a priority list of games. I list the games out and kind of make a ballot. And I have all my students, and I have volunteers do it just in case for some reason somebody gets sick, but my scholarship guys that are going to travel, I have them rank their games that they want to go to for road games, 1 through 6, 1 being the most priority that they want to go to. Last year, everybody wanted to go to Michigan. Well, guess what? You're not all going. At that point, it becomes subjective for me. Who do I trust the most? Who's my best shooter? You can be a great shooter. If I can't trust you on the road to behave and represent our university, yourself, your family, and me, and our program, the way it needs to be represented, you're not going. It just is what it is. I've had that in the past. I've had to pull a student off a road trip the day before we're leaving. Like, hey, you're not going. I try to do that because I have kids from all over the country. I have 9 students. They're from 8 different states. 7 different states, excuse me. So we have kids from back east, kids in the Northwest, kids down in Texas. So when we travel to these places, since we're independent, we go all over the country, we have a different schedule every year. I try to get these kids to be able to go to games that their family can come to and see them. So I really try to kind of keep that family mentality into it. And I understand we have a job to do, and it's got to be high quality. I get that. But for me, ranking them, and then my guys that do the best, the guys that are seniors, guys that are graduating, and guys that normally should be your best, most skilled shooters, their votes are gonna count first. It is what it is. Home games, everybody works at some point. I would normally give 2 people off for home games each week, and I let them pick which games they want to work, which games they want to be off. A lot of times we have kids who have family members coming home from missions or another wedding, whatever. So they can choose back in August, like, hey, I know this is coming up. I need to take off that week. We really try to approach it kind of from a business standpoint, like, hey, this is when you're going to use your vacation. For us, it's worked really well. And it's not the solution for everybody. We get that. But for us, it works. I cross-train all my kids on sideline end zone. So if I have a kid that's sick, in an end zone or something, I can put the sideline pin out there. I can shoot sideline and cut at the same time, you know, kind of between quarters if I need to. So cross training for us has been really, really good. One thing I do though, with students that are going to shoot the game that week, I make sure they go to that main sideline position that's going to shoot all the special teams on your main field and everything. So they get the most shooting that week. They're up to game speed. They've got the personnel that's going to be on the field during the game that week. So that's kind of how we do it. Guys are going to shoot the games. They're in sideline 1 and end zone 1 that entire week leading up. So that, I mean, Jevin, that's just an example of kind of how we do ours. But I mean, obviously, everybody's got their own way of doing it. But for us, that's what works.
Something I struggle with is, does anybody know outside practice, any other job assignments within the office?
Yeah, kind of like, how do you keep your guys that aren't the main guys motivated? I mean, that know they're not going to travel that year, they're volunteering. I mean, that aren't, you know, actively being used. How do you keep them motivated to, I mean, keep it up?
Yeah, so for us, it's our guys are fighting for scholarship. I mean, our whole volunteer process is a tryout for an entire year. I have 2 volunteers this year, and one's moving up to scholarship this coming season. It is a tryout. I mean, it's kind of, I mean, I hate to say dog eat dog, but like, comparing the two together, he's better than the other guy was this year. He was more reliable, showed up on time every day, stayed after, did other little things here and there. How to keep them motivated? Really, it's just them fighting, you know, kind of keeping your eyes on the prize, kind of fighting for that scholarship position to where they get to travel. That's what we're hoping that they're shooting for, is to get better to where we can trust them and travel. Really, for us, that's their incentive, and also, you know, financially the scholarship.
I was going to say, for motivation, what we do is a lot of our guys also work in operations. We have a lot of operations interns. We want to keep them motivated, help with recruiting, help with GAs do data entry. So that keeps them around, keeps them involved in football. I mean, they're not maybe doing video, but they're doing data entry, they're helping out with recruiting weekends, they're still around the office. So, you know, they're still there, they're still doing earning their keep, so to speak, but they're not necessarily doing video.
I guess what I'm asking is, I'm not sure everybody else works. Kids come in at 2:30 for 4 o'clock practice. What are they doing from 2:30? Granted, I know my kids do things, but what do everybody else have their kids do outside shooting practice? Okay, it's not the old days where you're erasing tapes or pulling tape off of VCR tapes, you know.
We have a lot of students that we do Snapchat throughout practice. We have people that do pictures throughout practice. We have people doing Twitter videos throughout practice. We have guys that go out for pre-practice. If they're not filming the main stuff, they're out there before practice doing different things with social media or doing things to help with marketing for recruiting that really help. Students love that. I mean, if you're not even a main sideline guy, would like to go out there some days and shoot, you know, do stuff on Snapchat. So, and with your question before, like with me, since we're basically starting a new department. Our students last year, even though none of them had ever filmed before, I still chose the guys that were the best every single week. So if you're the best every single week, you travel every single week. If you're like our main sideline guy, he traveled every single week. I mean, even though he was like, he may have been a junior and we had a senior that came in at the beginning of the year that, I mean, still, I'm going to travel. It doesn't matter if you're a junior, freshman, sophomore, whoever. If you're the best, you travel. So I don't, that's how I feel. I want our film to be the best. So that's how that's my way of doing it.
So the first year, I want everyone's first year, they need to be on the camera so they can understand what's going on. But after that, I kind of play to their strengths. And some kids, you know, they space out in practice, or you know, they don't have a huge desire to run a camera. So then I try to find something else. Sometimes during a game, they're ingesting highlights the whole practice and labeling highlights. Or maybe I actually put them on the editor and let them edit the game in practice. And I just try to talk with them and figure out what their interests are, what their career path is. If it's something outside of athletics, if they're just doing it for a school job and they have no desire to be an athletic video person, then I try to find something for them that relates to whatever they're trying to do once they graduate.
Our coaches have told me that our students can go to meetings. That's one thing that I don't know if your coaches would allow. our coaches actually want them to go to meetings because they can see, hey, how they actually utilize the film. So, if they can go to these meetings and they're like, man, they actually use my stuff. And why are we shooting like 3 angles of pass rush? I don't know. Well, they go to the offensive line meeting and then they can go see the intercut of pass rush. I mean, why am I doing this? So I think that's a huge helpful thing for them, the students, to be able to go to those meetings or see different ways, like how the coaches, like our special teams coach, we use the drone for all our kickoff stuff. And why do we do that? We have an intercut of kickoff already. Why are we using a drone? Well, I mean, it's very helpful for even our students to go to meetings. I know that's helped motivate some of our guys. So.
You talked about having a rotation. Does that rotation include people doing highlights, or do you specify one person?
We have, every single day, we have up to 2 people, 1 to 2 people filming highlights every single day during practice even. We shoot practice highlights. Obviously we shoot game day highlights. We have up to 3 to 4 guys. I mean, we're over all that stuff at SMU. So that's something that we do.
Does that include making the highlight as well, or do you have one specific student, or do you do that?
My assistant Brooks, he makes all the highlights, but we also have a student that does, like, we do meeting highlights. Like, we'll have like NFL turnover highlights and stuff like that. We'll have a student make those kind of highlights. So like maybe a smaller end, like not as important highlight, you may have those students practice on that kind of stuff, and which has been good for us.
How do you deal with class scheduling in practice?
Before the semester before, I mean, obviously my first semester was pretty tough, but the semester before, I tell them, hey, you cannot have practice. If we have a 4:30 practice, you need to be there by 2:30. So they cannot have a class from that point on till the end of practice. They cannot have a class. If they have a class during that time, they're not going to work for me, because I don't want them to be missing random days. If I want a student that's going to be there every single day. If they're not going to be there every single day, then they're not going to be a part of our staff.
So even if someone's a senior, they've been here for 3 years, what do you do when they're in those 4,000 level courses and they have to have this class to graduate, and it has to be at 3:30, and so they're late, and this practice, they're late practice every Tuesday or every other week? So I've dealt with that. But
well,
for 3 or 4 years,
that may be different. I mean, I haven't had to deal with that yet, but I mean, I think I will. I mean, obviously I will. But at SMU, they don't really have classes from that time slot typically. So that's why we have this practice at those times. So I mean, if that situation arose, I think I would. If they've been there that long, I think I'd work with them.
I spoke to our academic staff. Our players get priority scheduling. So before the regular students would schedule classes, the athletes get to schedule any class they want to fit that practice schedule. And our academic had a video with the equipment manager to their list. So they go and pick any of their classes and they have to be out to the clock.
Right, yeah, my students, they get priority registration too, but there are certain classes that are only offered on certain semesters, and you have to, we can have players who miss meetings because they're in class, because you can only get into that class if juniors and seniors, like including position meetings. So it's like, where's so-and-so, he's in class.
Yeah.
So even players even have to deal with that, so.
You guys practice in the morning or night?
Afternoon. 4 o'clock stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, if that situation arose.
Yeah, if he's a freshman or sophomore, you're just bringing him in.
Yeah. No, if they have if they've been there and worked with you, I mean, I think you'd work with them.
Right. Well, so you have 17, so one can't show up or someone's late.
Yeah, it's okay.
People, so yeah, so I'm fortunate that I have 8 or 10. So
We edit with 5 guys during practice.
Right.
So
back to the topic second with Matt, was talking about keeping the freshmen motivated when they're not traveling. Something that I've done is, because my seniors have been doing the same stuff. They didn't get travel their first year because they were training. So pairing up one of those rookies with your upperclassmen, your best sideline guy, your best end zone guy, or girl for that matter, pair them up with them, take them under the wing, if you will, kind of as a big brother kind of stuff, like keep them motivated, like, hey, you're working to get on the travel squad. It's something that I've done.
Yeah.
Pair them up with the upperclassmen.
And I don't know if a lot of people probably don't have as many people travel as we do. We have 6 people travel. So if you have one way you can work in, I mean, you can try and talk to your coaching staff, maybe your marketing department, and trying to get different avenues of doing things, maybe with social media and stuff. So you travel as a social media guy. I mean, that's what we do. So I don't know if that's some way that you can try and add another spot. So
I run men's, women's soccer, men's, women's volleyball, basketball, all that stuff. So some of my freshmen who aren't traveling, like when we went to Hawaii, we left Thursday, so we had all sorts of different events. Those guys become my number one volleyball, number one basketball, number one soccer. So they take over those spots. So they're not necessarily number one football, but they're also in a different sport working a full schedule.
Yeah.
One of the things I always do is I tell my guys, everybody travels ball. I travel my students at least once a year. That way they get a chance, the freshman, senior, whatever, so you know what's coming next year because as the rotation goes, you know, obviously my kids who are the better, they're going to travel to they get to pick which games they go to. And I tell my other kids, okay, you're the number 5th student in the group. That means if you do well for camp and you come to practice, you might get to travel to the last game.
Well, one thing I've tried not to number them or prioritize them.
Because if I don't, they'll go, well, I didn't get to pick to go, and I go, well, based upon here's why you've got to work on X, Y, and Z when we travel. Like you guys have said, the best ones get to travel.
Yeah.
So you're not going to take your 5th best filmer with you every week. If you come up and you come in and come through camp, everything I ask you, you're getting better and better and better. You might get a chance to, if somebody gets sick or I got an emergency and I can't go. Okay, you just fell into that spot, but I'm only going to guarantee you at the most a game. That way you get a chance to experience the hotel, travel, and I don't take 4 new people with me on the road where you're like, oh, I've got to babysit all of you and the coaches don't too. So you try to limit all the distractions, basically.
It's kind of funny. We have people that don't want to travel. We only have one person on the staff that wants to make it to every game. Everybody else just wants to stay home. But they do a great job.
Also, I mean, we have the same situation. We don't have a lot of people that don't want to travel.
My only comment was, you know, I have a lot of volunteers. I just secured a manager spot, a student manager spot, so that's the incentive that all of my volunteers work toward. And in terms of like numbering or prioritizing, as an office and as a group, because we usually only have maybe max 6 people, everybody's all the main people, you know, your 2 sideline practice, I shoot, so myself, the sideline person, and then the 2 end zones, and we have an editor runner, or if we can dig up one more editor, everybody's sort of in on the conversation, and if anyone has something positive to say about the other person, we take those comments. If someone has a concern, we take those comments. So we sort of, as a committee, rank each other, you know, encourage each other. If someone's having a problem, you know, who can help that person, whether it's me or my GA or now she's an intern, whatever. But because we work as a team and as a committee, you know, to Errol's point, the we is so important, and that's how we've been successful. You know, I only travel one other person, so we actually have a kid, actually it's Tim's favorite guy from my office, Kenny. Kenny traveled he's come to a few games on his own with his parents, but I still make him work. So I'm like, since you're there, you're gonna get up there, you're gonna shoot sideline, and then it frees up my GA to do something else, whatever. But everyone understands what the situation is. But again, the incentive is the 1 manager spot, but everyone's working together for whenever we can get them. You know, the good card idea is great, or just showing some kind of appreciation. But like you said, do you make them sign a form? No, you just kind of handle every situation as it is. If someone's being a problem, then you just have to handle it administratively. That's just my comments.
Just one thing I was going to say, one of the things that's been helpful with me, and if you can do it, it's great. I have a lot of guys who played football in high school who videotape for me. And if you can get those guys to the staff, that's great because they know automatically what we're trying to do. I mean, they understand they're in high school, okay, not how bad it is to miss a play or how bad it is to cut something off, and they understand what you were talking about, Jevin, with, you know, what goes on in the room stays. If they played in high school, they know what the rules are. They're not somebody just off the street who doesn't understand football, and also it also helps if you're telling somebody who played football in high school what 7-on-7 is or what it means to film in the box. they know that. You don't have to sit there and say, okay, this is the box is, here's what the linebacker is. I've been lucky in my time that I've had a lot of ex-football players who like doing it because, hey, I get to film, I don't get hurt. That's great. So that's a benefit to have.
I mean, building on a lot of things other people said, we have both our medical guys and guys coming out of high school. I also try to put the tight ends and O-lineman type, D-line, to film my end zones because they know what the box looks like. And I take my receivery type little guys and they end up filming a lot more sideline because they know what it looks like. But Ohio is kind of a unique situation that we have a strong sports management program. And so through some relationships that we've built over there, we have internship credit and practicum credit that are required for their degrees. And so they're able to check a box on the academic side and get, maybe get a book scholarship or a couple of bucks here or there, get some gear and travel and do all the fun things. One of the other things that we've done is we've used our film staff as a feeder to a lot of the other support staff. So if someone wants to come in and be an intern and work with a line, the first thing they're going to do is hold the camera. And there are things about that I like because it always makes sure that I have a staff. And there are things I don't like is because there's about half my staff doesn't want to be with me. So it's a challenge. Something, Jev, I'm actually stealing from you, is last year you posted that you gave a lot of your people titles.
Yeah.
Something for them to put on a resume and say, this is what I'm in charge of. Because saying you're a student videographer isn't very sexy on a resume, but saying you're the director of something, assistant this, coordinator of, and actually give them the responsibility. It's not lip service. But I mean, if you want to speak on that, but it's something I'm totally, my staff switched over this spring where I got half old veteran and half new, and all my veterans, I told them, I said, hey, you're going to help me, but we're going to make some titles for you. We're stepping you guys up. Leadership roles.
Yeah, graduation was this past weekend, and we all kind of met, and it's like, who's going to be who's next year's administrative assistant to Jevin Stone? Yeah, it sounds funny, but they take pride in that. Or who's our secretary, or who's our lead? I call one of them our female in the office, no offense. She's in charge she's our social community manager. Our community is right in this room, and this is our social room, and this social community manager. Who knows what it means? That's a title. So that's something we kind of do. So.
Yeah, like when my students become like juniors and seniors, like they're no longer student videographers, they're assistant coordinators. Because a lot of them deal with some of the head coaches because like a lot of the FCS guys, like I deal with multiple sports. So a lot of times like my students will be dealing with the coaches more than I will. So especially like if someone isn't as great with main sideline, but they're really good at shooting volleyball, like I'll have them film a lot more volleyball matches than some of my freshmen. So like the coaches also know that they're going to get a consistency from who's working the games, and they get to know the guys. And sometimes, like I actually have one of my volleyball coaches give one of my students an engraved business card holder after the season.
Yes, sir.
I was just wondering, of the three of you up there, do any of your schools have like the School of Cinematography, Mass Communications Department, anything like that you might be able to get some people from? And if you do get students from departments like that, can they use any of what they shoot for you on their class requirement?
To answer your question about the communications, yes, we have a communications degree plan there at Western Kentucky, and I have dealt with our WKYU station there on campus and had some students. My first summer, I was brand new, knew almost nobody, and was trying to recruit them to come film summer camps when Coach Petrino was still there. So I went over and I said, Mr. Basham, the guy over at the station, I said, do you have any students that are here during the summer that could come help, because we need like 5 people yesterday. What can you do for me? And started building that relationship. He helped out. So far as them doing that major, the biggest roadblock that I run into with that is as they get older, you run into the class problems. Almost every type of little TV show recording, anything of that they do, they ask them to come over at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 days a week. That completely shoots us, and they can't be there for practice, just done. They have to choose, basically, do they want to go do their major for college that they're there for, or do they want to change majors and then come work football? So it's just kind of, it's the kid's choice, honestly, and that's a battle that we fight of trying to say, okay, if you want to work sports, you kind of got to get away from that. But they do learn and pick up some things in their first couple of years. But then, yes, they typically, if they want to stay with us, they'll change majors. So
I can speak a little bit to that. At Film Cooking, we have our video department pretty much takes care of everything athletic video. We formed a pipeline from our mass communications department. We have requirements for them to pass certain classes in order to be eligible to come over to us. Also, too, we've been doing that for about 5 years now. The problem that we do run in was something similar to yours. They're required to be at a television studio to do some, television shows that they do produce. But the classroom requirements, those classes that they pass, those are the ones that they have to be there for. Other than that, it's voluntary. So we do wind up saying, okay, well, over there you're in the classroom setting, but now you are, we call ourselves the big leagues now. Like, you come over here, this is where you get all your experience, you get job titles, you get all those things, you get scholarship funds. But when you come over, you're working here. The other thing that we do is we offer internships for some of the older kids that had to take those classes late, but they do come over junior and senior year to get their internships. We offer 2 positions there. And then we also, too, offer practicum part pieces to where some of the junior practicums and the sophomore practicums, they can come over to fill some of the spots, just a camera person on our live streams or something like that. But we have a pretty good example of how that relationship between academia and athletics is supposed to work.
Well, on the other side of that, you have to be careful of, we've had run-ins with the journalism school. You have the students that want to be reporters, and they're coming into the football video side of things, and they're telling you, yeah, I'll do X, Y, Z for you, but in the end, they're just trying to get their name on Twitter, and they're trying just to, hey, I saw so-and-so got hurt, and then they have that out there, then they just quit. So we have to really be careful on that, and it sucks because we do have a good journalism school, I'm sure a lot of y'all do, but you want to get them when they're year 1, year 2 in the journalism school rather than year 3, year 4, because those are the ones who are trying to be the next Aaron Andrews. And you just have to be careful of that. I don't know how exactly you go straight to that, like, hey, are you trying to be a reporter? Maybe that's what we do ask, and if they kind of fault and fold, then okay, you're not working for us. But I think that's something you don't want to risk, and that's definitely a possibility with the journalism college and the reporter students that want to be on ESPN one day.
What do you do year-wise for your students?
Go very politely, walk up to my equipment manager and say, sir, Mr. Dittmer, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the lunch that we had last week. May I have a shirt for my students? No, but seriously, you do everything that you can to try and help your students, and that's a good parlay kind of into the last point that I have. When you are the video director, kind of like Errol was saying, it is a we, but you as an individual also represent your entire department. That being the case, you have to go to not only the coaches, not only the administrators, not only the other professors on campus, everybody that you go and talk to the academia people to try, or to tell them, hey, my students need to be here for practice. I need to get them on the same priority schedule. If you don't speak up for your students, they're not going to get anything. If you don't go to equipment and ask for stuff, if you don't go have a good relationship with the strength coach, your kids can't go in the weight room. My rule on that is, I'm okay with it if the strength coach says that it's okay. But if me and the strength coach aren't getting along, he's going to tell all my students, no, buzz off. You do the same thing with the athletic trainers. You have to be a good representative of your entire department to everybody that your students should go and work with. No, I'm not saying you have to go talk to everybody on campus and say, hey, my students might come talk to you. But everybody that they will go talk to, and you know they will go talk to, from equipment to coaches to academia to whoever, make sure that you are building those relationships and building them as positive relationships. So when the student walks in, these people see 5,000 kids per semester, and that's probably lowballing it. But as soon as the kid walks in and says, "I'm Joe Blow, will you please help me?" They go, "Who are you?" They say, "I work for John Riley over in football video." If you've already built that relationship, that's going to help them tremendously. Just the fact that now they can relate to that positive relationship and get something done that the kid actually needs. And then once the kid gets that, it helps out with the department. It's up to us.
Hey guys, so we're going to take a quick break, then we're going to come back 3:45 and go to our next session. So if you use the bathroom, grab something to drink, take a little break, and we'll be back here in about 10-15 minutes.